All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are very fortunate on this February 19th. Welcome to the podcast. We are very fortunate to have from the St. Rose office in Las Vegas, Nevada, we have Mr. Earl White. Earl, if you could unmutify by hitting *6, that would be splendiferous.
I have unmuted. Can you hear me?
He has unmuted, and we can hear you, yes. Thank you for taking your time out on this President's Day, my man.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to guess you've been up for at least 15 minutes by now.
Oh, you know me. I like to get up at the crack of 7:59, something like that.
I know. All right, well, let's start off by telling a little about yourself, how long you've been doing this, all that good stuff, please.
Sure. So my name's Earl White. I got started about 12 or 13 years ago. I've been with the same brokerage the whole time. We were Prudential back then. So I was in the casino industry for a little over 10 years, and the casino and I had a parting of ways. They invited me to leave, graciously accepted their invitation. And I found myself unable to make as much money as I had a good pit boss job, and I couldn't replace that. At that time, the market was down a little, and I decided to get into real estate. I had no idea whatsoever what I was getting into, but I did realize immediately that there was a lot of money to be made in real estate and that I didn't want to go back to casino. And I was very fortunate. I got brought into the fold, and I immediately met John Joseph and a team of extremely strong prospectors. Not a lot of them are left in the company. They're all around in the business, but a lot of them are in the company. But like Rochelle Vinoy and Liz Hershey, those are some of the original prospectors I came up with. And I was just really lucky. They taught me, you're going to prospect. If you're going to do this, you got to say hello to 20 or 30 new people every day. And that's kind of my origin, I guess.
Yeah, and then you went through, because I remember talking to you, you were in the parking lot of a seminar locally, and you asked me, this is when you and I were coaching again, this is probably like 6 years ago now, where you said, you know what, I've been calling the FSBOs, I've been calling the expires, but most of the business I get is from my just sold calls. Do you think that I can make a business out of that? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can. So tell me a little about your evolution and how you went through a bunch but ended up doing something that's very predictable for you.
Okay, so in the beginning, my mentors, they were like, hey, look, we're going to, you got to call all the lead sources. And I don't disagree with that. For new agents, I think that you should just sold, expired, FSBOs, door knock, open house. I think that you should do all of the active lead sources, active. I'm not big on let's do a mailer or a post or a flyer, but anything, any of those, expired, FSBOs, door knock, open house, and just sold. And I did make some money in expireds. It took me about 9 months to start getting my piece of the pie of expireds, but I really did, but I didn't enjoy them at all. I would race through the morning expireds, then I would do my just solds for the rest of the day, and that's where I was really comfortable and most profitable long term. And after a couple of years, I found myself doing exactly what I just said. I would race through the expireds because I didn't like them, and then I would settle in and do the thing that I didn't hate. Right? I did, just sold, and eventually I said, I'm kind of beating myself up and struggling with this. Like, I don't like expireds, and you and I guess I'm gonna take an extra second here. So I had these really good years where whenever I was new, I didn't know any better, so I just called every day. And after about 2.5 years or so, the business started to really kind of topple over, right? Like I started making money on all the calls that I had made previously. And so that third and fourth year, that third year, I'm living on past prospecting, and the fourth year I went broke.
Right.
Because that up and down, right? I kind of broke that cycle. And when I came back to you, when you started coaching me, that was my, I've got to get back to doing what works. Will you please coach me? And I was building up to calling like 30 people a day back then. And I said, Rick, is it okay if I call 30 people, but I just do it and just sold? Can I just not do this other thing that I really don't like? After I've done it for years and I just don't like it. And you said, hey man, if you'll call 30 people, it doesn't really matter which way you do it. And, and we support that. And it was just the best thing for me. I really like Just Sold. And I'll take a second here and let you interject, but I'll tell why I like Just Sold. But you go ahead, I guess.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that we talked about too, and I appreciate that because it's absolutely 100% true. FSBO's expired. If you want, more now stuff, but you can have way more competition, way more rejection. Where if you have the, I would say patience, right? Because I love your line. I'm not going to steal it. That you have a great conversation today. It's a paycheck down the road. But I love that because it's a paycheck down the road. Could be 6 months. Could be 9 months. But I also relate to that because where I come from, my little 9 towns I covered in southern New Hampshire, in New England, I made 60% of my money from the Just Sold script. So I was very, but you got to take great notes, follow up. You're going to talk to them 7 or 8 times, but you have way less competition. And especially if you're talking to older people, they're way more, I would say loyal after you've had conversations and even maybe been over and told them what they need to do to get the house ready. So if you're willing to build that kind of pipeline, which I don't know why anybody wouldn't be, it's a great idea. It's work, but they're all work. Which work do you, which uncomfortable do you prefer until you get comfortable with it, right? So that's my only take on it. And I appreciate that you do it that way because not many people do it that way. But I think some people call it farming. They go out door knocking, whatever. But yours is very, and it'll allow you to get extremely good at that script that you use, right? Because everybody talks about how you deliver that script, and it is impressive, and it's great to see.
No, thank you. You said so many things that are exactly accurate that I couldn't have possibly fully appreciated 6, 7, 8 years ago. So there's a consistency to Just Sold. Number one, you identify them early. Hey, hey, this is Earl Berkshire Hathaway, gave you a call. You let them reject you. You keep them on the phone. You bring down the wall. You ask them the money question. Hey, look, you've been there 20 years. If you were to move, where would you go next? And hopefully we brought down the wall by then and they give us a real answer. Well, my kid graduates, in June, but I'm not going anywhere until June. That's a real answer that that raises a flag with me. They're going to retire. The kid's graduating. Their wife's going to retire. Someone has gotten ill. Unfortunately, sometimes that's a trigger. They want to move closer to the kids. All these trigger points, but they don't happen right away. They're like things that are like the kid's going to graduate in June is a great example. That's a condition, not an objection. You're not going to convince him that he should move during his son's last 3 months of high school. And you're identifying it early. But when I identify it early, I'm ahead of the game. And now if I can get in, and you and I call them 2-stops. I don't remember what you call them, but I book an appointment as fast as I can. Hey, look, if you're gonna move in June, would you like me to come out, take a look at the house, tell you, some pointers how to get it ready, what I think it's worth, and I'll do an appointment now. And I know that a lot of what I do is based on Mike Ferry, and a lot of what I do is, he would say I'm wrong. He would not want me to go 3 or 4 months before they're going on the market, but I love it. I identify them. I book an appointment, call the day before, show up well-dressed, well-prepared, go through, I'm a little over-prepared for what that appointment really is because they're not signing any paperwork 3 or 4 months in advance.
Right.
But when the day comes around, I'm usually not interviewing. they usually call me and they just roll over and they're like, hey, we're ready. Come on out. Can you come out Tuesday and we'll get all that paperwork out of the way, you know? I mean, I have an appointment tomorrow that exactly that. You know, now the call originated in 2021, but that's exactly what that appointment tomorrow. I've already been out, seen the house. They had it painted. They're doing the landscaping as we speak. And tomorrow they're signing paperwork to go on the market in a couple of weeks.
I love it. It requires patience, dedication, consistency. But, you know, like when I was doing it, I was thinking, well, what else am I going to do? I mean, plus, you know, let's face it, when you talk to 25, 30 people every day, you feel pretty good about yourself and your efforts, don't you?
So, yeah, so if I'm going to be transparent, I've been struggling with getting those numbers up. I've been like, my average contact daily to, you know, in 2024 has been like 15 people. Now, I get that luxury a little bit because 12, 13 years in the business, I have a sphere that is feeding me, you know. But honestly, we've talked about this too. I've built my sphere out of just sold calls. 75% of my sphere originated as a just sold call. So the consistency and the long-termness, and this is what turns most people off. Well, I guess picking up the phone is what turns most people off. But when I say when I make a great call, when I go, man, that was a good call. This guy's, you know, I'm going to send him a thank you card, call him back, see if he got the card. I'm going to follow up with this guy. That's usually a paycheck, like on average, that's a paycheck like in 9 or 10 months. And people hear that and they go, what? You know, 9 or 10 months? Well, I don't have a job that gets paid on Friday. I own a business and I'm perpetuating future business. And if I make enough calls, you know, I'm keeping that pipeline stuffed. And it's great. It is Tony the Tiger great once you've been making those calls at least 6 months. But yeah, you know, there's a serious delayed gratification in this way to do it. But again, it's not a job, it's a business.
Yeah, I remember when we had that conversation. I think it was like July of, I don't remember what year it was. It was like 6 years ago. And then I remember the conversation we had because you were on Mondays, the first Monday in January when you said to me, Rick, I'm so excited because this is going to be my best year ever. And I said, how do you know that? You go, because I know I have 3 or 4 listings this month alone in my pipeline, never mind February, March. So because you spent that 6-7 months building that pipeline, right?
Yeah, I remember the exact call that you're talking about. I remember the exact quote. It was, we could probably figure out what year it was because it was Monday, January the 4th. And I remember that because what we had said. And and I said, it's January 4th, but I've been working, you know, let's say that was, I don't know, 2016. But I've been working on 2016 for the last 6 months. I had put, so like I said, I had that peak and valley, right? I was, you know, my business started to kind of make some money and I slacked off on my prospecting. It dried up. And then I decided I had to come back. You started coaching me and I, you know, consistently came back every day. And it was your very good memory. It was around June. So, so I had about 6 months, and those 6 months, not exactly that fruitful. Yes, sometimes the deal falls right over in your lap and so on. But it had all started, you know, and all that, like that 6 months of prospecting really started coming to a head, like after the holidays, which is something I hear quite a bit of, a lot of, you know, most years, you know, after the holidays. And I had that push coming and I knew it like, you know, like anyone who gets on, if you have high skill level right now and you're like, I'm going to get on the phones right now and start doing expireds and physical, you could have a great 2024. And if you are getting on the phones right now with just solds, you're really setting up third and fourth quarter for 24, and you're really setting up a great 25 with just solds. And I know that that's not sexy. It's not, right? Like it's, you know, we're realtors. Christmas
Right.
was 6 weeks ago. We've all got, bills on our credit card. But it's so true. If you want to build a long-term and sustainable business that is not full of ups and downs, man, just sold is just money in the bank.
I agree. And like you said, by the time you go out, you're not doing an appointment. You're getting a contract signed because you're really doing the presentation over the 7, 8, 9, 10 different contacts that you're making. And obviously, I'm a company guy, so I'm going to throw this in. And if you're setting them up on a neighborhood report, the newsletter, they're also getting email from you. If you're connecting with them on social media, you're developing your huge network of people that see what you are, know what you do, and telling their friends and all that kind. And that's kind of that was the next step for you, is to get a little bit of the reciprocal wake, because you're creating this wake by prospecting, and then getting a hold of the reciprocal stuff is probably is something that you started to work on recently, isn't it?
So reciprocal, talking about repeat referral and using the tools like the VAC tools and stuff like that to automate a little bit.
Right.
So
yes.
I've always been very bad at implementing a lot of these tools, and I know that they're good.
Mm-hmm.
So I use the Neighborhood Market Watch. We definitely do. Anyone that gives us an email, we set them up on a Neighborhood Market Watch. And other than that, I'm completely underutilizing a lot of the other stuff, and I admit that. So I guess that's a fault. Like in the beginning, I had prospectors take me under the wing. They taught me, and I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Like, I know how to book appointments, therefore I don't need to do a lot of this other stuff. And it's wrong. I've made a mistake. Don't make that same mistake. If you find the prospect and get their email and have their contact information, use some of the automated stuff to help you out. As far as repeat and referral, I didn't understand repeat and referral at all the first 2.5 years. People are like, repeat referral. And I was so new. And when you're new, you're just hungry and you can only see 10 inches in front of your face. And I'm like, the guy just bought a house. How many houses are you going to buy this year? What are you talking about? And then about 2.5 years in, somebody called me and was like, hey, you sold, my house, my brother. And I go, free money. I just realized what you're saying. And it's not free money. You have to cultivate that. But right. I was very guilty in the beginning of not treating my clients like the gold that they were. I was treating them very transactionally, like just trying to get the deal done fast so I get this check and get to the next client in the beginning. And today I understand slowing down, even if, spending a little extra time with them that might not be profitable in the second, but because you're building that army of people that will repeat and referral you, Right. I guess, does that answer that?
Yeah, it does. And you mentioned that, you can get away with less contacts now because you have a money goal that you want to get to every year. And initially it was 25, 30 contacts. Now you can do it with 15 because you've got repeat referral. You're actually way better at doing it, so your results are also better. So, it boils down to what's your goal, right? I mean, how many deals you want to do, what kind of money you want to make, how many people you want to help. And, and Earl, honestly, I'd rather have somebody do it like you're doing it than somebody who's really good at social media, who's really good at tools, but they're not putting anything in there. So, but the mix, I think if you just, and the neighborhood report, if you're going to send them something, that's the best thing to send them. The newsletters, I think, are also great. And then getting a little connected with them on social media, I think would be helpful too, because then all these people see what you're doing as well, and you'll do business from that as well eventually. It's kind of like your prospecting. It took a while to get in gear, but once it gets in gear, baby, it's consistent.
Yeah. You had mentioned the notes. I guess if I have 2 minutes to kind of go over procedure, anatomy of the call, right? Hi, the intro.
That'd be great. Yes, please.
Yeah. So the anatomy of the call. Hi, the intro. I'm Earl. Blah blah blah. You gonna move? When do you plan on moving? Whatever you say. They reject you. You keep them on the phone. So there's only a couple of questions in that script, and in the beginning you're just focused so completely on like your words. You can't hear them. You're nervous in the beginning, and there's no way to get through that other than 90 days. Do it every day for 90 days. It's the only prescription for that knot in the pit of your stomach. It is, but you're extracting information. You're trying to find out, is this person, an appointment would be great. But my bread and butter is, are they worth calling back? Something like, son's graduating in June, we're going to move in June, Then very detailed notes. And you said that. You mentioned that, and I'm going to touch on that for a second. So here's what minimum that I need. I need the first name, and I need where or why they are moving. So the reason is for follow-up. So if you're not going to do good follow-up, don't bother with the just sold call, right? Because it all comes from the follow-up. And so the way that operates is the first call is a business call. Hi, this is Earl, Berkshire Hathaway, right? But the second call is, hey, Rick. Hey, Rick, this is Earl, man. Hey, Earl, the realtor, you told me that you're moving in June because your kid's going to graduate and you don't need this big house anymore. So that call is way different. It's, hey, Rick, this is Earl. Then a personal fact that I couldn't possibly be, an automated dialer. Your kids graduate in June, you're thinking of moving, right? So that is how the follow-up call opens up, and it changes the whole call. And, something else you talked about is 7 or 8 calls. You're right. Because when you call him in March, in his mind, that's still all the way out in June. When you call him in May, he's so busy because the kid's getting ready, to graduate. When you call him in June, he thought he'd be ready in June, but it's really probably gets pushed to July and then August, right?
Right.
And that's so. And those every time we talk, those notes, if I find out anything, it really goes into the notes. And then setting that appointment so that I can get in front of him, even if I do get there early, that's the best, because when I impress him, then it's almost always my deal, right? Do I lose one here and there? Yeah, and when I lose them, it's usually over commission. Somebody decided to go with a 1% guy, but that's okay with me. I'm good with that.
Awesome.
I'll take the pause there for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think detailing it is absolutely fabulous, and it's all about being personable. Like I was just talking with someone today, and they were saying I'm not getting the results I want, and you have to get on the phone. I have this little acronym called Getting Ugly, and it's just a little edge attitude where you talk to people like you expect them to talk back. It's also an acronym, stands for Unconsciously Competent. The scripts. Great expectations. I kind of just described that. I talk to you like you're supposed to talk to me. This is perfectly normal. The L is lasting results, and the Y is you. What's your option? I mean, it's up to you if you're going to make this work or not. But there are people like you. There are a lot of people that are. You mentioned Rochelle. Rochelle's another perfect example. Liz, another perfect. People that are consistent with their prospecting and get consistent results. The key is to keep going once you got it started. Right?
Yes, I can't stress that enough. And every realtor I've ever met, maybe not Rochelle. Actually, Rochelle is just a machine. She is so impressive, but every other realtor I've ever met has fallen into the trap of, I'm too busy to prospect today. Well, you're busy because you prospected in the past, right?
Right.
June rolls around and instead of one or two deals in December, now you've got 7 or 8 deals, because we don't have a very natural ebb and flow. We have surges and valleys and such. Anyways, but the consistency, man, it has so many benefits. It's kind of like working out, right? Working out has the physical benefit. Well, it also has that mental benefit, right? Who doesn't feel great after they work out? Like, you feel like you did your job. Not only that, you stay sharp, because whenever you stop making calls, you have to kind of relearn skills again. You're keeping that pipeline stuff so you don't have the peaks and the valleys. How much easier would life be as a realtor if there were less peaks and valleys?
Right. That's kind of the thing that keeps people, keeps them turned off, keeps them, but you can, those peaks can be just as high and those valleys can be less low as long as you're, like you said, you just have to get used to the fact that I have business going on because I've been prospecting. I have to keep prospecting while I'm doing my business. And people always ask me, how do you do that? I always have my appointments in the afternoon. I always do my prospecting in the morning. Now, it's never perfect, but as a rule of thumb, I try my best to keep it like that.
Yeah. So it's when it's new, the first time you have, 5, 6, 7 escrows, it's going to be overwhelming, and you have to kind of set systems in place. But you really can't set systems in place until you've experienced it, right? When you've had 0 escrows and 2 escrows, you can't imagine what you're going to have to do to manage 7 and still fit your prospecting and appointments in. But those are growing pains. Those are just growing pains in every business. Like, I can't get to the next step till I can't figure out how to solve the problems of the next step till I get to the next step. And that's just the way that is,
Yeah. And the next step varies based on the day and what's happening and what's going on and, your challenges and all I know is that the quality of your problems go up tremendously if you're consistently prospecting.
Yeah, that's so I had in 2021 I had an epiphany. In 2021, besides the market being very good, I made a commitment. I was like, I'm going to prospect every day that I'm scheduled, and I made it 10 months, and I got COVID at the end of 2021 and broke my streak, but I went 10 months without missing a day. And I had this epiphany.
I remember that.
It was such a good year and it was such a good streak. But I'll wrap it up. I know time is here, but I realized, you know what? I live the greatest life. Like, I do whatever I want, go on vacation, buy whatever I want, 6 months of the year. And the other 6 months of the year, I'm waiting for a closing. The other 6 months of the year, I'm like, you know what? That'll be fun. We'll do that when I get a closing, And I realized, if I made calls every single day without missing, instead of living that great life 6 months of the year, I could live that great life 12 months of the year. And when I realized that, and whenever I started to implement that, it was truly great. And that's why 2021 and 22 and 21 and 22, those were our best years by far, But
right. Yeah, I remember seeing you in the stairway, and you tell me, I'm at 6 months, I'm at 7. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love it. And because, if you keep your focus on the basic activity that you need to do, the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. That's a good, if I work out and I eat right, I get in better health. If I talk to people and I prospect, I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to fill the pipeline, and, look at, I know there are people out there today, well, I don't like the phone. Then go door knocking. You can do it by social media, but you got to talk. You have to use your voice. Your voice is an incredible tool. All right. Whether it's face to face or over the phone, you have to eventually get to the voice to voice in order for it to be as impactful.
Agreed. You know what? Anybody who's new, anybody who's struggling, anybody like in that genre, what I say is you're not stop saying I'm a real estate agent, I sell houses. Look, man, you're a guy that needs to say, or guy, girl, you're a person that needs to say hello to 20 new people every day. And I don't care how you don't have to do it the way I do it. I don't care how you do it, but you better say hello to 20 new people every day. Otherwise you're going to have real challenges.
Mm-hmm. Great advice, my man. Perfect place to let it go. So listen, Earl White, not to be confused with Mr. White, although you are Mr. White. Anyway, bad joke. All right. I just want to say, Earl, thank you very much for taking your time out today, giving these people some knowledge on what works. I really appreciate your time, my man. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I'm never upset with being confused with the wolf. So Winston the wolf.
That's right.
So, all right. Thanks, Rick.
All right, buddy. Keep it rocking.
All right.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.